Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar video. In this one I want to go over the information that we got from the Avatar merchandise panel at New York Comic Con 2025. So it ended not that long ago, like at all really. But anyway, we actually did get coverage of it, interestingly, kind of to a certain degree. I'm the source of it because Greg, my podcast co-host, Greg is at New York Comic Con. He was in the room. He relayed a lot of the information through me via Twitter, via DMs, and then I posted the kind of relevant kind of content. And I thought that was a pretty decent way to get the coverage. What I'll say about this overall is that I think the panel was okay. Like we learned what there was. There were a few reveals, but I would not say there was anything particularly notable. If you are not up to speed with like upcoming Avatar merch, especially the lineup of Wave 1 of Jazzware's toy line for Avatar, this might have been sort of new to you, kind of having it organized like that. If you are up to date with Jazzware's Avatar and what the lineup is, there really wasn't much here. So nothing huge on the news front, but you know, hey, we'll cover it. So yeah, here is the kind of projector. As you can see here, the Merch Nation Avatar NYCC. They went through Magic the Gathering up first, and unfortunately there's basically no news with regards to Magic the Gathering Avatar. They showed off the alternate art of the Appa Steadfast Guardian, which again we had already seen before. It seemed like they gave a brief explanation of the mechanics, I think, quickly. Greg told me that from what he saw, none of the cards were new. And we went over them a little bit on the podcast. So like he's looked at all the cards because of all the new art and stuff like that. So it seems like they mostly just almost like, I think, recapped some of the stuff that's in the Start Collecting article for Avatar. Nothing particularly new. They seem to just be highlighting that, yeah, the debut stream for Avatar Magic is coming up on October 28th. That's when spoiler season is going to start. That's when we're going to see new cards. A little bit unfortunate. I think they could have thrown us like something like a card, but whatever. It is what it is. Then we get into Jazzwares, where of course they have the master Avatar license for toys. I'm assuming this same slideshow is basically what they showed at San Diego, because it pretty much seems to just go over kind of Wave 1. This is kind of interesting. They kind of highlight their like approach. Jazzware's Avatar: quality and innovation keep core fans at the center of the DNA. For fans, by fans. Brand was developed by the fans who want quality product in the market. Show to shelf representation. Accurate representations of the characters you love. This is a huge focus of what they are doing. So that's just really nice to know that that's part of the approach. It seems like they mentioned that like Mike and Brian are involved in the process, at least to a certain degree, a few times during the panel, that they seem particularly happy with the way some of the figures worked out. Like in their mind, one of the Zukos is the best Zuko they've ever seen. So, you know, I'd love to know the exact involvement of them, but I assume there's some basic approvals at a certain point where, like, you know, they'll only let this kind of go ahead as a product if it meets a certain standard, and the Jazzware sculpts were actually pretty good. So yeah, no new card reveals. Yep. And then yeah, this is where they go over basically Jazzware's Wave 1. Now, to be fair, this is information that's actually somewhat difficult to find online, because like Jazzware's social media presence is kind of bad about this, and the stuff isn't listed on the Jazzware's website or anything like that. A lot of places are kind of scattered at the moment when the stuff is actually like listed or not. So it is nice to kind of get it laid out like this, where you can see this is the 4-inch Little Elementals line. It's not blind box, so you can see it's $10. This wave here is based on Book 2 Earth, and they have little elemental features on their bases and stuff like that. Seems really nice, but they only showed off the stuff from Wave 1. Next, we have the 2.5-inch mini collector figures, which there actually hasn't been much information about. I don't think people have found these in stores yet. Everything else, pretty much, it seems like people have, but not these. These are blind boxed, I'm pretty sure. But I'm not really sure. They do say there is a chase, which I think is this golden Momo. But you can see here, Aang, Katara, Sokka, Appa. Oh, Appa's the chase. Golden Momo is an exclusive. Then there's Toph, Zuko, and Momo. I think we did see these at Toy Fair before, but again, I don't think we've seen them kind of really since, basically. Then here is this is just the overview in terms of what the lines actually are. So the Jazzwares toy line effectively consists of 2.5-inch minifigures that I think are blind box, 8-inch plushes, 4.5-inch feature or gimmick figures, 4-inch little elemental kind of figurines, and the 6.5-inch full collector action figure line. And you can see the price points there. So it's a nice to breakdown of that. Then we'll go into this here. So you can see, yeah, this is where, yeah, he relayed to me that Mike and Brian are involved with the merch, giving feedback, I guess. Here are the plushes for Wave 1. So you can see it's Aang, Momo, Appa, and Otter Penguin in a sort of chibi style kind of situation. So again, the idea would be that I'm assuming the lines going forward will feature characters and more animals. Here is the gimmick line, the 4.5-inch action figures that have kind of gimmick figures. They have like spring-loaded kind of arms and legs, depending on what they're going for here. So you can see here the blue Aang is part of the wave. Now, again, I don't think anyone's actually found the blue Aang in store. They're doing a weird thing where, like, where has the stuff available at the moment? I think it's sort of like a preview wave that isn't the full lineup. So I think when it actually comes out, I think that's the idea. I don't think it's meant to be a thing where the blue Aang, the kind of spirit Aang, is a chase, but I'm not actually entirely sure. So there's that. Here is the collector's action figure. So obviously the frustrating part here is only 2 figures in each wave is a little bit frustrating. But you can see here, apparently based on the book 3 fire things, that is a bit of a weird thing, the way they're doing it here, where like a full part of the line is just entirely based on a specific book is a bit of an odd choice. Now, I assume that will probably break down a little bit as time goes on and they won't get as specific with it. But regards to the idea of like, so does that mean like, say like Aang, every Aang, like we're not going to get like a book 1 Aang in the collector action figure line. We're just doing book 3. I don't really mind that. I think they made the right choice to go for the end of series characters for the big collector action figure lines. But you can see this is the one that has the swappable heads and stuff like that, the heavy articulation, soft goods execution, so you can see they actually have actual clothing on them. It's not just made out of plastic. And they really emphasized, as you can see in my tweet there, that part of the reason the articulation is so good on these is that the figure, of course, underlying figure, has good articulation, but it's usable articulation because the figures aren't hindered by having that kind of plasticky clothing. Instead, they have the soft goods, so it's actually usable articulation. A little bit of a frustration here. I'll get into it in a second, because like they did at one of the conventions previously show off, Toy Fair actually, show off Katara. So there is a Katara coming to this line, and I think Katara is the only kind of like advanced figure into potentially wave 2 that we seem to know about, and they just didn't show it off here, which was a bit unfortunate. This is probably the biggest quote-unquote announcement from the panel that we didn't know beforehand, and that is that Avatar Squishmallows are going to be a thing. So it seems like at the panel, the only thing they showed off at the moment was a 12-inch Momo. Now, it is just the concept for it ultimately there. But, you know, the idea of Squishmallows is that these are the kind of plushes that are basically round, really, really soft, and they are a little bit of another kind of like chibi style version of characters. They do them for a lot of different IPs, and Momo is one of them. I assume there'll be an Appa and various other ones. The details on this is summer 2026 is when these are coming, and there are more to come. So you can see that these are a little bit delayed compared to like the rest of the line, because Squishmallows are under Jazzwares, but they're not directly, you know, it's a separate line. Like Avatar's going into that line rather than Squishmallows coming into the Avatar line. They also have costume stuff. I don't think most of us cared too much about it, but you know, they have like Aang and Zuko, and I think other stuff is coming, but they didn't really show it off. One of the other weirder announcements, I think this is the last announcement from the whole thing, it's Avatar cross Hatsune Miku cross U2s. The idea basically is that it's more like it's Hatsune Miku U2s, but Hatsune Miku is dressed up as Avatar characters. So Avatar is like the lowest part of this collaboration. It's a pretty weird one overall, especially because U2s aren't super accessible, I think, in a lot of regions. It's a little bit of an odd one here, but not too bad. Because again, interestingly, Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, which is out right now, has Hatsune Miku in the game already as one of the kind of crossover things, and then Avatar is going to be across the last DLC crossover. So this is going to happen. Hatsune Miku Avatar is going to happen again in Sonic Cross Worlds this time next year, basically. So that is a kind of fun thing that's also happening here. But yeah, that's basically everything. You know, here's my thoughts that I put up on Twitter. I think it's a bit of a disappointing one in terms of like the panel description talked about how this was meant to be like a preview for the year ahead, effectively all the games and merchandise lines for like 2026 basically. When Magic the Gathering's out November this year, the Jazzwares toy line Wave 1, which is what they showed off, is coming out. It's either out already or it's out in the next couple of weeks. It's out this year. The only stuff for next year that they showed off was this U2's collab with Hatsune Miku and also Squishmallows. So they didn't tease anything else, which gives me the kind of somewhat strong impression, and this was I had a sense going into the panel that this was probably going to be the case. A lot of the other companies, my guess is, probably are planning to do Avatar stuff, but in line with the movie. Jazzwares will do stuff for the movie. We already know that. Not from this panel, from elsewhere. Jazzwares will have stuff for the Aang movie. I assume a lot of the other companies will as well. You have to factor in that the movie, up until a bunch of months ago, was planned for January next year, not October. So because of the runtime of like lead time basically on merchandise, I'm assuming a lot of these places had their stuff kind of ready to go for January and then had to hold it back for October. So they can't talk about it yet because it's still too far away. And that's why it feels like there's not much that they kind of really could announce overall. Which makes it, I think, all the more frustrating that like Jazzwares didn't go into like their Wave 2, which we assume would be like early next year. And why Magic didn't like maybe fill up some of the panel by just like revealing a couple of cards. They've got hundreds to reveal in just a few weeks. I don't know why they couldn't just kind of throw something out here. And then they did give out a poster at the panel, but the poster is just the general poster for the Avatar Magic set that they gave out to everyone. And then, yeah, here is the Katara, just proof that in the collector line, a Katara is coming. They showed this off at Toy Fair. Now, obviously, it's an earlier version because you can see the Aang greatly improved in the final product compared to this version. Even the Zuko as well. And the Katara, I assume, is much improved as well. So we have no more recent sense for how good the Katara looks, but I'm assuming Katara is either going to be part of like the main launch of Wave 1 or is maybe our first Wave 2 character. I don't really know what the breakdown is. I think the fact that like this picture doesn't have Katara in it highlights that, yeah, this is Wave 1 and that's just the kind of way they're doing it there. So, that's it for the merchandise panel. I'm very glad that we got to see the full sort of scope of what the panel actually was, and we didn't just go radio silent on it. I do think it's nice to have that sort of breakdown of just like, this is what Wave 1 of Jazzwares Avatar is. But yeah, it's weird that they didn't tease it anymore. I do think the communication kind of across the board on that isn't great, but I'm assuming it will get better as it properly starts to release everywhere in multiple regions and so on. But yeah, they probably should have teased, I think, a little bit more. Like, especially the idea that, like, all the stuff, as you can sort of see here, even the panel was called Avatar Legends. There wasn't a single thing that wasn't, like, ATLA at this panel. As in, like, it was all, this is an ATLA toy line, ATLA stuff, ATLA cross Miku. Where's the Korra stuff? Like, I assume Korra can come into this line eventually, but they didn't talk about that here, which I think was a little bit frustrating. And then, obviously, I guess it's too early for Aang movie stuff and too early for Seven Havens stuff. So that's it, basically, for the merchandise panel. Obviously, we have 2 more panels still to come tomorrow. A little bit later than this panel. Tomorrow is the publishing panel, where we should be getting some updates on comics, novels, and hopefully some other little bits and pieces with publishing. There's nothing then on the Saturday, apart from like signings and stuff like that. But the big panel, the anniversary panel, is on Sunday. It is going to be live streamed, so the coverage should be pretty good on that one for sure. And that should be the panel where hopefully we get an update on, I would assume it has to be the Aang movie. I'd be surprised if it's more Seven Havens information that we got, given that, as I show in this video here, they already revealed something about Seven Havens a few months ago at San Diego, but that's the reason we expect news here at New York Comic Con. So either way, that's the situation. I'll do more videos as the convention progresses. So I'll do a video tomorrow covering the publishing panel. And then, as I said before, my plan is to do a live stream following the Sunday panel. Assuming there's kind of stuff to talk about. Like if they really don't deliver at the 2 following panels, maybe there's no need for a stream, but you know, just be aware of that. Follow the channel and you'll see what my plans are. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on the merchandise panel. What were your thoughts on what they did / didn't reveal here? Do you find any of it interesting? Let me know. But otherwise, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.